Hello students, in the previous lecture we have discussed about the various control components, their symbols. Then we have discussed about the two-wire system and three-wire system, power circuit and control circuit. Now in this lecture we will discuss about the DOS starter. Now why starter is used? Basically to start the motors we are going to use the starter, reduced voltage starters. But for the motor whose rating is up to 3 HP, we'll go for the direct online starter. In direct online starter, we will connect the motor to the supply through a starter coil, and that starter is called as the direct online starter. It does not reduces voltage, but it will provide you certain sort of protection. So all of you are familiar with such type of device. In most agriculture purpose, when you are going to use the submersible pump or the motor on your well, bore well or in your well, we are going to use this type of starters. So it has two push button. One is red color push button and second one is the green color push button. So green color push button is normally start push button and red color push button is normally stop push button. Now when you are going to press this button, at that time the motor will start. So inside the starter there is a contactor. Okay, so after pressing the button the contactor get energized and it will connect your load to the supply. Now, direct online starter is the simplest kind of starter that connects the motor directly to the supply through three-phase contactor. The direct online starter usually consists of contactor, circuit breaker and overload relay protection for protection against damage. Now, this starter also provides you the overload protection and no hold protection. When voltage is less at that time, the starter is automatically get tripped, and if it will draws the more current, then inside the contact this dual starter we have the overload relay, in which we need to set the relay to certain value, that 20% overload, 30%, 40%, 50% overload, and as per your requirement you can say after setting when that much overload will occur, it will automatically disconnect the load from the supply. So it will provide you the two types of protection, overload protection and no load protection. Inside the dual starter there is a electromechanically operated contactor is used, which can open by thermal overload relay whenever the fault condition occur. The fault may be short circuit fault. Okay, so when any type of short circuit fault, that is single phase to ground, double phase to ground will occur, at that time the current will drastically increases, and in that case the thermal overload relay will operate. So thermal overload relay basically uses the bimetallic strip. Okay, so in which what happen when the excessive current flows, that time the metal get expanded, because when the current will amount of current increases, that heat generated also increases and the thermal bimetallic relay get operated and it will disconnect the circuit from the load. So contactors are typically going to be controlled by a separate start and stop button. Here remember that we are not going to use a single button. In your domestic purpose we are going to use the single button, say for operating a fan, for operating a geyser or anything, we have a single button that can be on and off. But as we already discussed in the previous lecture, that for control in industry or motor we are going to use the three wire control, and for three wire control we are going to use the separate start push button and separate stop push button. So contactors typically going to be controlled by a separate start and stop push button, and there is also additional contact on the contactor is employed across the start button as a hold contact. And as we have discussed in the previous lecture, that we are going to use the auxiliary contact of the contactor across the start push button. So after releasing the start push button, it will maintain the motor or contactor in the energized state as long as we are not going to press the stop push button or the supply failure, power failure. If you are going to observe over there, there is a metallic ring. Okay, so it moves only in this direction. This is for protection purpose. If a child or a kid or for accidentally press this button, then the motor does not get start, because when this will on this one, the stop push button is pressed, and that will causes the circuit to open just like this one. Now, the dual starter basically consists of two main protection parts, overload protection and overcurrent protection. Okay, and this dual starter is used for the motor up to maximum 5 HP rating. Now, we will discuss how to make the connection of dual starter. So basically we are going to use the three-phase supply. The three-phase supply from the supplying authority, that may be MSCB in copper in our area Maharashtra. So that comes, and that three-phase supply is given to the MCB. Basically this is a optional one. If you want you can put. Then there is a contactor inside the, this is actually your dual starter. Inside there is a contactor, so that goes to the contactor, and then from contactor it goes to the overload relay. So here you can set the overload rating as per your requirement. So this is basically the connection diagram, diagram. This is the power control, in which this is my three-phase supply, R phase, Y phase, B phase, circuit breaker or fuse protection, then overload protection, and then this is your contactor, power terminal of the contactor. Contactor has two terminals. One is the power terminal or main terminal, and second is called as the auxiliary terminal, and that is connected to the motor. So this is the power circuit, and this is the control circuit for this one. So in the previous slides we have discussed about the start push button and stop push button. So this is the two push button, start and stop. So when for energizing the contactor, we are going to use normally a lower voltage supply, that may be a single phase, or in case of your dual starter we are going to directly energize with two phases, means 415 volt. Okay, so this is my phase 1. It is connected to the start push button. The start push button second terminal is connected to the stop push button. Remember over here the start and stop push buttons are connected in series. Okay, so start push button is always NO type and stop push button is always NC type. Okay, so you can observe over here it is the NC type, means normally closed type, and start push button is normally open type. So when we are going to press the start push button, the current will flow from P to start, start to stop, stop to NC. Okay, overload protection NC contact you are going to use over here, and from that it goes to the contactor coil, and contactor coil to the neutral, or the circuit will completed over here. So when the contactor coil, when the current flows through the contactor coil get energized, and this is the auxiliary contact of your contactor coil. This NO contact become closed when the contactor coil get energized. Remember contactor has two types of coils. One is NO terminals, sorry, contactor coil has two terminals, NO type and NC type. So these ends, and these are the auxiliary terminal, and these are the power terminals of the contactor or main terminals. So this contactor coil, after energizing, this NO contact will close, and this will provide the alternate path for the flow of current. So even after you are going to release the start push button, the contactor coil remains energized and your device will all in the running state. So this is the basic working of your dual starter. So basically in the exam they will ask you the draw the power circuit and control circuit for dual starter and explain the working of your control circuit. Okay, so now sometimes I need to rotate the motor in forward direction as well as in the reverse direction. Take a case of say I want to just open the door and close the door. So in that case what you are going to do, for opening the door the motor should run in one direction, for closing the door the motor should run in other direction. Or if you want to do the filing, so in filing what you need to do, we need to go in one direction in the forward direction for some time, and then we need to come into the reverse direction. So for forward and reverse we need to use two contactor. One is the forward contactor and second one is the reverse contactor. So now how to change the direction of rotation of your three-phase induction motor. So we can change the direction of rotation of your three-phase induction motor by interchanging any two phases. So if my phase sequence is RYB, the motor will rotate in forward direction. If I want to rotate it in the reverse direction, then I need to interchange any two phases, either RY, YB or RB. So when you are going to interchange any two phases, at that time the direction of magnetic rotation will change, as the direction of magnetic field also changes. Okay, so in this case if you are going to check the wiring diagram, so this is your MCB which is connected to the supply. Okay, basically MCCB is going to use over here, then overload relay. Okay, then this is the contactor for forward rotation and this is the contactor for reverse rotation. This is my forward push button and this is my reverse start push button. Okay, and this two push button forward and reverse are connected in series with the single stop push button. There is no need to use two separate stop push button. A single stop push button is sufficient for this one. Now how the circuit will operate. So this is my motor, power circuit of your motor. So I have three-phase supply which is connected through circuit breaker, fuse protection, overload protection, then forward contactor and reverse contactor through the motor. So when the forward start push button is pressed, at that time this forward contactor will close and the RYB phases are connected in the motor. Okay, so motor will rotate in the forward direction. If I want to rotate the motor in reverse direction, first I need to stop it. Okay, and again I have to press the reverse start push button. So after pressing the reverse start push button, what happens? The supply will go from your reverse contactor and then the motor will rotate in the reverse direction. As by interchanging any two phases, the direction of revolving magnetic field in the motor will change and the direction of motor will also get reversed. So if you are going to carefully observe here, my phase is R, Y, B and this is the outgoing terminal R, Y, B. But in case of reverse type R, Y and B, so R is connected to R but Y is connected to B and B is connected to Y. So here I have interchanged two phases Y and B. Okay, to change the direction of my motor. Now if you are going to check the control circuit over here. So as we have discussed, for rotating the motor in forward direction and reverse direction, we have to use two separate switches, one for forward direction and one for reverse direction. Okay, so here first we will discuss the forward operation of your motor. So in forward operation, what will happen? My current will flow from P to stop, stop to forward push button. When the forward push button is pressed, at that time the current will flow through forward push button to the NC contact of the reverse contactor and then to the forward contactor coil. The forward contactor coil get energized. Once the forward contactor coil get energized, its NO contact will close and its NC contact will open. This contact, NC contact of forward contactor, is connected in series with the reverse contactor coil and this is called as interlocking. Okay, so when motor is running in the forward direction, it will never operate in the reverse direction, because if this contact is not given over here, then when someone presses the reverse button, that will result into a short circuit and the motor will get damaged. And after forward contactor, there is a overload protection and this one. So when the forward push button is pressed, the current will flow from stop, stop to forward button, forward to forward contactor coil, contactor coil to this one, and the motor rotate in the forward direction. Now, if I want to rotate the motor in the reverse direction, even though I am going to press the reverse button, my motor does not rotate in reverse direction. As why it will not rotate in the reverse direction? Okay, so this reverse contactor coil does not get energized as this contact is open. So if I want to rotate in reverse direction, I need to press the stop button press. So after pressing the stop button, the forward contactor coil get de-energized and its NO contact, this will open and this contact will get closed. And then after pressing the reverse push button, the current will flow from P to stop, stop to reverse, reverse to NC contact of the forward contactor coil. Okay, then reverse contactor coil to overload protection and then neutral. So this reverse contactor coil get energized. After energizing the reverse contactor coil, its auxiliary contact which is in place in series with the forward contactor coil get open. Okay, so when this contact will open, the current does not flow through this path. Okay, and it will always prefer this path. So after energizing this contact will also get closed. Okay, this contact F and R is called as the holding contact and these NC contacts are called as interlocking contact. These contacts, these NO contacts are used for maintaining the machine in forward direction or in reverse direction, and these NC contacts are used for protection of the machine. Okay, so this is the basic working of your forward stop reverse type dual starter.